Hello and welcome to the San Diego Unified Office Skills Training video series, Tips and Tricks. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to use the feature of freezing panes in Microsoft Excel. And so to do that, we're going to go down and open up a file that we use in our advanced Microsoft Excel class called Mr. J's Advanced Excel Exercises. And here we have a worksheet of a pretend school with a list of pretend students so that we can use this to practice with. And so when we're new at a school site or to a worksheet, as is the case here, we try to become familiar with it by looking at the headers at the top, and we have student ID numbers followed by first and last names and full name here and birth dates and other information across this very large worksheet. The problem is when we have, in this case, 473 students in this pretend school, as we scroll down, we may forget what the headers are for all of these columns. After looking at this and realizing we're at an elementary school, we might be able to figure out that this is grade level, and this, of course, is gender. But over here, we might see some things that make less sense to us because we're not familiar with it. So it would be great if there was a way that no matter how far down we go, and we can go down really far with 473 some odd students in this school, it would be nice if this first row was frozen up there so we could see the header no matter where we go. So to do that, it's very simple. You're on the Home tab ribbon by default. When you open up your document, all you have to do is go on over to the View tab and click on that. And then we go past the Show Group and Zoom Group over here to the Window Group. And here we see a command button with a drop-down menu called Freeze Panes. And when we open it up, we see that we have a few options here. The first one says, keep rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls based on current selection. But we haven't really selected anything yet. We're going to skip that one. We're going to do this one right here that says freeze top row. And that's what we have visible is our headers right there. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. And it couldn't be simpler. Now, no matter how far down we go, and we can go pretty far, I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut Control End. That will take me to the end of our document. And we can see all the way down here at the bottom in row 474 minus the header. So that means we have 473 students, Sarah Zuniga being the last one in our pretend school worksheet that we have here. So let's go ahead and scroll back up to and we can still see what all the names of all the columns are. So if we forget that these are in fact entry codes, we can see that. And these numbers here referring to the last school grade. Couldn't be easier. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to have the headers visible at all times as you're scrolling through the document. So I'm going to go ahead and use a keyboard shortcut to get back up to the top quickly. Control Home, H-O-M-E. It's over there above your right, left, up, down arrows on your keyboard between your QWERTY keyboard and your number keypad. All right, so that's pretty cool. So if we were in Google Sheets right now and we wanted to print out this worksheet with all 473 students in it, it would actually print the headers at the top of every single page. But in Excel, being a very powerful application, a very powerful software program, it doesn't do that. It's not going to assume that that's what we want. So if we go over here to File, for example, and we go down to Print, we see a print preview. We do see the header on the very first page of 33, but as I scroll to the next page, page 2, page 3, page 4, so on and so forth, you can see that it's missing right there. So we actually have to do a different step for that. And let's go ahead at this point and just show you how you can do that. It's actually on the Page Layout tab ribbon in the Page Setup group. Over on the right, it says Print Titles. And if I click on that, it takes us directly to the Sheet tab of Page Setup. And we see lots of different options that are in there. And it can get a little bit confusing at first, but it's actually pretty simple. It says rows to repeat at top. And so I'm going to put my cursor in here because that's where we're going to put the rows that we're going to repeat at the top. And if we understand how to enter that data in there, we could go ahead and type it out. If you're familiar with database language, programming language to do that, not a problem. Or what we can do is simply go over here and select column, or I'm sorry, row number 1, just by left clicking on it. and it will automatically put in the necessary numbers and code, if you will, to basically say all of the first row is going to be included in this. And so now if we go down here to print preview, this gives us an option to do that. And then I can see that it's not only on the first page, but as I scroll through to the second page, third page, fourth page, and on, the header is going to be there. So it actually takes 2 steps to do that. Let's see if we can get rid of that. Let's go back to our print titles. I'm actually going to undo this real quick and backspace there and say okay. And so now that should be turned off. But there's other things that we can do here in the View tab ribbon in the freeze panes option. So let's take a look again. So not only can we freeze the top row, but we can also freeze the first column. So that's interesting. Let's try that. So if we freeze the first column, here we have our student ID numbers. Then we can scroll to the right. And of course, no matter how far we go, no matter how big this worksheet is, we are always going to be able to see that first column. I'm going to go back and I'm going to unfreeze that just by clicking the top here where it says unfreeze panes. And just know that there's other ways we can do this. So once in a while, we might have a student like our Rocky Winthrop here. Let's say that we want to be able to find some information down below and compare it to the data that's in this row 20 with Rocky Winthrop. If we want to, we could put Rocky right up there at the top. And let's see if I can get it right in there. So now that Rocky's at the top, I can go here to freeze panes and I can say freeze top row. And sure enough, Rocky's going to be frozen there. And I can now start to search through and see if I can find some information down here in another row. Maybe Rocky has 2 entries here somewhere. Maybe one of the names was spelled different or something like that. You're just trying to search somewhere to compare data. You're able to freeze that row or any row that you want to by simply just putting it on the top. And you can certainly do it with the columns, the same idea. Let's go ahead and unfreeze that real quick. All right, unfreeze panes. And so there's another way that we could do that. And it's a little bit trickier, but not so bad. So if I come down here below Rocky Winthrop and I select the row just below it, row 21, and then I go up here to freeze panes. And this time I'm going to say freeze panes. And it says keep rows and columns visible while the rest of the worksheet scrolls based on current selection. So let's go ahead and click on that. And because I was just below it, that's going to indicate where you're going to start scrolling from. So in other words, I wasn't selecting row 20, I was selecting row 21 to be able to keep Rocky Winthrop. So that's another way I can do it, especially if I want to keep more data visible up on top as I scroll, so I can make that adjustment. So that's another way that we can do this. Let's go ahead and unfreeze those panes. All right, and we can certainly do it the other way. If we have a very large worksheet and we want to be able to check out data to the right, as we go farther to the right, all these names and student ID numbers sort of disappear, and we might forget at some point. This one's actually not very big, but we might forget at some point, okay, oh, so that student went to Lafayette Elementary, and we look back and like, oh, we can't even see what student that was. And so there's another way that we could do this. We could either, a couple different ways to do it. If we want to keep row D, it's the same idea as we just saw. I can then select E, all of column E, and then go up and say freeze panes. And now when I scroll to the right, no matter how far I go, I'm still going to be able to see that information going back and forth that way. So it's something that you can play with and practice with and see what makes the most sense for you. So let me try just one more here real quick. I'm going to unfreeze those panes. And how about we do this? All right, so now we have column D right there is visible. Let's just put our cursor up there. So column D is visible. And how about we go up and this time we're going to freeze the first column. We do it that way. And then of course we can scroll over this way and just see that column. and not have to see all the other data in columns A, B, and C in that case. So just a couple different ways that you can do it there. And just remember that even though you might have frozen something, in this case a column or a row, it's not going to transfer over into your printing unless you go to the page layout tab and you go to print titles and you select the either the column or the row that you would like to repeat. So I am hopeful that that has been helpful to you. Let me go ahead and unfreeze these real quick. All right. So I'm hopeful that's been helpful to you and that now you feel a little bit more confident about freezing panes and being able to manipulate the data on your screen. And at the very least, it's always a great idea to keep that first row frozen. So we'll just do the top row. That way you can always see it. So thank you so much for coming to learn with us today. We hope that this information was helpful. And don't forget that we have beginning, intermediate, and advanced Microsoft Excel classes, as well as Word classes. And we also have 6 different Google Office Apps classes. And if you want to find out when you can come to another class, we have an IT training calendar with links to professional learning to sign up for more classes in the staff portal in the IT department. Click on the IT training calendar link, and there you will not only find the 12 different classes that I teach, some 60 per quarter, but you'll also find my co-trainers in PeopleSoft and also PowerSchool links available there to be able to sign up for trainings. So please tell your coworkers, remind them about all these training opportunities and the resources we have available for you. And thank you so much for coming to learn with us today. Have a great day.